I'm now going to talk about how we started to bring farmers on board in 2017. So why change GrassCheck? It had, as Sinclair said, been incredibly successful up to that point. While the GrassCheck plots and associated predictions have been world leading, there was an opportunity to advance and get in real farm data. Unfortunately, as Sinclair said, due to the cost constraints, the plots had reduced to 2 sites at Greenmount and Hillsborough, which were both in the east, and the guys in the west were feeling understandably left out. The plots were on a rigid 21-day rotation. Now, as you all know, on a farm, you extend your rotation at the beginning and end of the season. Increasingly nowadays, farmers are extending the rotation due to dry weather, or even in June this year with cold weather, and the plots can come a kilter from what is happening really on farm. At that particular time, I think there was almost a backlash against grass and grazing, and a growing perception, well, this grazing malarkey, that's just for County Down. And we needed to make GrassCheck relevant to every farm in Northern Ireland. So with initial funding from AgResearch, DAERA, and the capital investment from CL, which is now the Ag Tech Centre, 35 farmers were recruited in January 17, and I'd like to pay tribute to Francis Lively and Debbie McConnell, who I know are both here today. No sane scientist would probably do what they did in terms of bringing that many farmers on and that many moving parts, but they relished the challenge, and there was some very healthy competition as to who could recruit the most dairy or beef and sheep farmers at the time. And the good thing was with that, we were able to look at a range of systems, to high, low input, suckler, dairy, beef, land type, lowland, SDA, LFA, different growth potentials and different management styles. And we started off with 35 farmers from right across Northern Ireland, monitoring grass growth and quality on a weekly basis. We were able also to keep track of grass utilisation and farm management data such as nitrogen applications. This was supported by a network initially of 30 weather stations, again funded through the Centre of Innovative Excellence in Livestock, which is now merged into the Ag Tech Centre. And this allowed real-time weather data from across the province, and this is still probably one of our most hotly debated posts where we put them up, rainfall or soil moisture or whatever on it, but those readings have been very helpful over the years. Now, it has been a challenge maintaining those weather stations. The initial ones were put in early 2017, and they were getting slightly dilapidated, and AgResearch invested a large amount of money at the start of this year to take 22 of those stations, give them a complete revamp and calibrate them and make sure we had reliable data going forward. AgResearch has always believed that sharing the science is important. A report on the shelf is no use to anyone. We need to get the information out there. And we have been very successfully, and we still do, publish the bulletin in the weekly papers. And I'd like to thank the journal, The Farming Life and The Farm Week, for putting that in the paper every week and disseminating that to us. But there was also an opportunity in 2017 to take advantage of new online platforms. We created a website, and we've had a particular focus in social media. We now have 4,500 followers on our Facebook page, with over 2,000 farmers reached, 21,000 people reached this year, and 766 content interactions. On X, formerly known as Twitter, we now have 1,400 followers, and amazing almost 160,000 post impressions in the last year, with 84,000 people reached. During the COVID pandemic, we obviously had to bring our on-farm activities to a halt, and we instituted the GrassCheck podcast. And so far, we've had 4,700 downloads of the GrassCheck podcast. A new initiative this year was to bring in a weekly email bulletin. What you see in the kind of A4 bulletin you see in the paper each week is really only a fraction of the information that we have, and there was so much more we could do. And I suppose taking a leaf out of what Chucklets do with Grass 10 every week, we then put in a weekly email bulletin, and you can sign up for it on the AgResearch website, or you feature farmers. We put in more information on the breakdown of grass quality analysis from different farms, from the different plots and so on. So there's a lot more granular data over there available, and I would encourage you to sign up to the email bulletin if you aren't getting it already. We've expanded GrassCheck further over the years, and today we have 53 GrassCheck farmers right across Northern Ireland inputting the data, and we couldn't operate this programme without them, and I'd like to thank all of them very much. Putting GrassCheck together every week is a huge team effort from a variety of people. So we start off with those farmers So half those farmers, they take it in turns every week, roughly half of them every week. So roughly 26 farmers every week are going out at the start of the week and taking a clip of grass, putting it in a bag and sending it in the post to the labs at AFBI. We then have the teams at AFBI and CAFRE, and I'd like to thank CAFRE for all the work they put into this too, who are going out and mowing those plots that Sinclair showed you earlier every week, and then taking those results, sending the samples to the lab, doing the weighs, doing the oven dry matters and so on. We then have our 53 farmers who on a Sunday, Monday over the weekend are all going out and measuring all their paddocks, inputting that data into AgriNet. And obviously we have on a continual 24-hour basis our weather stations recording information, and they do require maintenance, and acknowledge our own team for all the work they put into that. So all those samples from the farms and from the plots go to the John Archer and his team at the lab at AFBI Hillsborough and get analysed. Then our team, Gillian and Courtney, every week pull all that data together from the farms, from the labs, from the weather predictions and so on. That gets sent to Taro, who you'll hear from this afternoon, who then generates the prediction for the next 2 weeks. Then that information is then sent to our colleagues in CAFRE, and again, thanks to Robert Patterson and Anna Truesdale, who between them put the bulletin notes, management notes together every week. And then that gives us the finished product of the bulletin each week, which we then send out to the farming press, social media, the website, and our email bulletin, which goes out every Thursday. So there is quite an intense period of work by a lot of people on Monday and Tuesday every week to get all this put together. And I'd like to thank everyone from our GrassCheck farmers, to the team at CAFRE, the team at AFBI, and our own team at AgResearch for all that work that puts together, and our partners in the media for featuring that. It's very much a team effort. We've obviously 8 years of results now from the farms. Now, this is a bit of a messy graph here. I'm not going to go into any detail, but each cluster is a different year. Each colour is a different county. So you can see that no year is the same, and indeed, in any given year, there's a lot of variation between all the counties. And if we went into individual farms below that, there'd be even more variation there. So it just goes to show, and I don't think I need to tell any farmer this, you can't farm by the calendar. You have to adapt, you have to be flexible absolutely every year. Now with 8 years of data, we've actually had a chance to plot the differences we have between the east and the west. And I picked County Down and County Tyrone because they both got a good number of farmers in each of those counties. They're also the highest and lowest rainfall. And we can see the differences in grass growth patterns. So County Down, being a little bit milder, starts off a bit quicker in the spring. It peaks sooner, but it peaks lower. Tyrone peaks a little bit later, but peaks higher. And then on average, in a typical year, due to obviously the moisture differences, County Tyrone tends to grow higher during the summer months, and then they're back really into parity again from the end of August through the rest of the year. Maybe County Down ticking up a little bit at the very end, again, due to perhaps slightly milder conditions. But what does this mean across all the counties? So this is all the counties, and the green bar shows the growth on average for the farms in each county over the last 8 years, and the blue bar shows the average rainfall in the grazing, not for the whole year, just for the weeks that we're putting up the bulletin every year. And as you can see, there is a very strong correlation between the rainfall and the growth. Now, obviously, if we looked at utilisation, that would be a different matter, and this is obviously a key challenge going forward. And Tara will talk about this morning. The indications are we'll perhaps even grow even more grass in the shoulders, but how do we utilise that is obviously the challenge going forward. But again, within each county there's a variation, and thanks to Sean for pulling some of this data together from AgriNet. So even within County Down, we have some farms growing consistently on average 12 tonne, and that's one of the driest farms that we have in County Down who's doing that. We have one farm in Antrim who's pushing out an average of close to 15 tonne a year, and a guy in Tyrone not far behind him. So there is a huge variation. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons. A beef farmer maybe can't justify the same fertiliser input as a dairy farmer and so on. So there's reasons behind all these differences. But if we look at, take Tyrone as an example and look at the variety with differences from people going from 8 tonne to 14 tonne. And if we take the work that was done by Sinclair Main and John Bailey a number of years ago, where they calculated the benefit to a dairy farm of an extra tonne of dry matter per hectare of £441 and beef 204. Maybe with inflation these figures have gone up higher, but we're sticking with them. If we take a typical 40 hectare grazing platform, the difference between the bottom and the top, and bear in mind the bottom is still probably above the Northern Ireland average, is a whopping £106,000 for a dairy farmer or £50,000 for a beef farmer. But also what we find on farms is huge variation within a farm. Again, a farm here, very respectable overall growth of 11.3 tonne, but his top paddock is doing 13.8 tonne, his bottom paddock is doing 8.2 tonne. And if we work that out on a per hectare basis, for a dairy farmer, that top paddock is doing almost £2,500 more than the bottom paddock, and the beef, that's over £1,100. That's going to justify any liming, any reseeding you want to do to improve that and to bring that up. And it shows you the value of actually measuring in terms of identifying those poor performing fields and taking the remedial action. It's been a noted fact over the last 3 years that grass quality has not been what it has been. And on this graph, I've plotted the quality in ME for 2017 to 2021 and for the last 23 years from 22 to this year, 24. And as you can see, there has been a noticeable drop-off in ME over the spring months, and I know many people are complaining also that silages, first cut silages, are lacking. And now, while we don't really understand the reason behind why this ME drop is there, it certainly is quantifying it, and perhaps the reason why many are reporting that first cut silages are somewhat subpar. Similarly, on protein, we're also seeing lower proteins and are perhaps a longer, particularly this year, stay down at those lower levels. Yes, this time of year it's actually crept up, and actually we're actually seeing, maybe because of the milder autumns, we're actually seeing a higher crude protein this autumn. I know we're currently reporting when GrassCheck closed some very high crude proteins. So we have seen changes in the quality of grass as well. We don't fully understand why yet, but I think this data then enables us to ask the question, what's behind this? This graph is, just to explain it, this is a graph that is about the date of peak growth. So this is not how much grass you grew, but when you grew the most. So we can take 2021 as the year when obviously everything was going pretty tickety-boo right across the province, and every farm more or less peaked on the 6th of June. But that doesn't often happen. You can see in 2017 with the dryness at the start of the season, County Down didn't peak to July. So again, it shows that every year is different. And in GrassCheck, we have to be careful the advice we give, because the guys in Tyrone or Fermanagh are going to be different from the guys in Antrim or Down. And it's again trying to tailor that advice as we go along. And that variation is probably going to set to continue, as we'll discuss this afternoon. So in terms of key outcomes, GrassCheck is now offering much more localised grass growth and weather data. We have those 50 farms right across the province reporting a lot of data. Social media is engaging high numbers. Farmers learn best from other farmers, and the exemplar that we have, of farmers doing good practice, that will do more for helping the adoption of grass than anything else. Success breeds success, and out of our GrassCheck initiative, CL and the levy bodies in GB created their own version of GrassCheck, which is published in the Farmers Guardian every week. Then AFBI and ourselves were both involved in a recently completed EU programme called Super G, and we had colleagues right across Europe who were trying their own pilot versions of GrassCheck, and they were very, very interested in what we had to do. So there's a lot of people from around the world looking at what we have been doing here. So where might we go next? GrassCheck is a wealth of data which can be explored. We'll be doing some more of that this afternoon, but we've got oodles of data, and we have recently recruited a PhD student to be starting in a few weeks' time, and they'll be mining this data, and Tara will talk more about this afternoon. Can we give more tailored advice? That will require more resource, but it is needed. County-specific forecasts is obviously something we really like to be keen to do. More work on monitoring grass clover spores on farm. Again, we've got some clover plots, but we really could do some more data on clover on farms. Agri-Research has a clear aspiration to create a soil carbon observatory, and linking the GrassCheck data with that could be very powerful. A key challenge here is, where is our next grassland agronomist coming from? And Scott Laydaw has already been mentioned, and I'm delighted to hear today along with Trevor Gilliland, but I'm kind of conscious that we were well renowned in Northern Ireland for lots of grassland agronomists. I'm conscious David, who you're hearing from this afternoon, is not millions and millions of miles from his bus pass. So where are we going to get the next? Where's the next Scott Laidlaw? Where's the next where's the next Trevor Gilliland, where's the next Michael Camlin coming from? You know, and I think that is a real challenge. Those guys, you know, Scott literally wrote the book on Clover. I've got 2 of his books at home. You know, where are we going to have those guys in the future? And I think that's a real challenge. I'll put to Deirdre and to Afby. Right, where's our next generation of grassland agronomists coming from? We also do need a medium to long-term solution from funding. GrassCheck has tended to live hand to mouth, and we have funding secured for the next 2 years. But I think, you know, we will, as our ambition increases, we may need to look elsewhere for other partners to fund for the future. And we're starting to scope that out within AgResearch. So just again, at a conclusion, like Sinclair, to thank again our colleagues, our farmers. We couldn't do it without you, our colleagues in Afby and Caffrey, for all the work they put in every week. It's a small, well, actually not that small, it's a large committed team of committed people, and thank you all very much for what you do. And we'll now move on to the discussion session. Thank you.